Welcome back to the Learn How to Call Games series with Jeff Dorsey here at Quincy University. I'm Professor Nora Baldner. I want to talk about ethics in the broadcast booth. So when Quincy University students are working for home games for the GLVC SN Sports Network, they're not supposed to be cheering for the Hawks.
Right.
It's difficult because for 1-2 years they've been wearing the Hawks jersey or the branded gear.
It is.
How do you sit down and not favor a team as you're broadcasting?
It's difficult. It's called like a neutral broadcast is what it is. But you have to be fair to both sides because you got people listening in Indiana someplace. They're watching their son or grandson play too, and they don't want you to think badly or say something badly about them. And that's one of the things you have to recognize is I'm not doing. You know your audience, I guess, is what it turns out to be. Know who might be listening or watching. If you're just doing the home game and it's only going to be here for Quincy area, that's one thing. But for what you're talking about, the GLVC broadcasts, they're watching over in Indianapolis. They're watching in Springfield, Missouri. It's because they're picking up the same feed. It's like a lot of Hawks fans will pick up on what you're talking about with other broadcasters doing the game while the Hawks are on the road. And I've done that quite often, and I can pick up on these guys are Indianapolis broadcasters.
Right.
Because they don't play the neutral game as well as they should. And really what you need to do is do a game as though you're doing the network. Maybe your favorite team isn't in it, but it's the game you're doing.
Right.
It's not your home team playing it. It's the game. The game of basketball, the game of football, it may happen to involve your team, but you got to put that aside. Now, I'm not going to tell you that you can't get a little bit excited about it. If you didn't, you wouldn't be human, okay? Inside, you're just rooting like crazy for the Hawks to win. On the outside, you got to say, hey, the Hawks won tonight. They played a good game. Indianapolis played well tonight, too, but they lost by 2 or whatever.
Right.
And that kind of thing. And that's difficult. Because
and
if
you
you're
can't
a fan.
I've even seen in a long time, at the very beginning when we started doing this on campus, the GLVC SN broadcasters were pretty good about being verbally fair.
Yep.
But then they would do something like,
yeah.
and the Hawks, and I'm like, people are looking at you. So even just your physicality, your verbality, that's not a word, but even just that, you can't really cheer in the press box.
No, you
right?
can't say we and they.
Right.
You just avoid that at all cost. Once you say we, you've lost the Indianapolis audience or the Springfield audience. You just lost them because, they're not happy about hearing that.
Right.
And you have to do it as though Quincy did this, Drury did this, and go from there.
When can you be a homer? When can you cheer for the team that you're
Well, you can cheer
broadcasting?
for your team when you know that's the local audience that's only going to see it or hear it.
Like, for instance, the Gems? Like, do broadcasters for the Gems, are they?
They broadcast the games, I believe, they stream the games.
Right.
But they have young people from all over the country. So in that case, I don't think you're going to offend too many people, but because you're supporting the Gems players.
Okay.
And I don't, and there may be some people from other teams that are watching the Gems broadcast because their kids playing on the other team. So it's pretty much the same when I think about that.
Sure.
Because if there are 2 teams playing, they're from 2 different areas usually, and the kids are from all over the country as far as the Gems are concerned, and even the Hawks, they come from all over the country and the GLVC. So you've got people all over that are listening. So I would say just be impartial for both of them. As far as when can you be, if the game is basically out of hand, and it was difficult, and we'll touch on this in a little bit, I'm sure, when Indianapolis won those baseball games, because everybody was pulling for QU,
Right.
including me, and I wanted them to win that game desperately, but I realized that I got the Indianapolis. When they got the last out, the game was over. The Hawks season unfortunately ended. I mean, it was hard not to be depressed over that, but you had to be upbeat for the Indianapolis team.
Right.
And it's just part of being the professional you need to be.
Unless you're hired by a specific club, team, organization, and you are representing them. That's different
Cardinals.
than Sure, like the Cardinals.
Yeah.
That's different than representing a league or working for a league.
Yep.
It's also different from the announcer. So even our games, at QU, we've got the broadcast team and we have an announcer. Now the announcer can be,
Yep.
pro which side or the other side, but the broadcast team really has to watch that.
Yeah, they do. And again, if the game is being broadcast locally, have at it. Support your team and be a homer.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of being a homer even, I just think you need to do the game. And if you get excited about the home team winning, that's great, because everybody listening is excited about that. Almost everybody.
But anymore, everything is streamed. So I don't know that there's a local broadcast anymore.
Well, that's true.
Is there?
Local radio would broadcast like a
Okay.
high school game or something like that.
Okay.
Where most people are from Quincy that are listening to that.
Sure.
So that's what I'm referring to, not so much the college or Jim's baseball.
So what are some other ethical concerns in sports broadcasting?
Stay away from politics. That'll get you nowhere but trouble. And no matter what it is, when I did my radio show here with my co-host Sarah Diane, we both talked about that. I said, no matter what your feeling is about this or my feeling is about that, we can't share that. You have to look at your audience as being 50% this side, 50% that side. Do I want to lose that side? I don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose this side. So we got to find a mutual way of handling some of the things and basically stay away from it. A lot people, in my opinion, watch sports to get away from the politics of the world. They get away from the troubles. To me, sports is that outlet, and I think it is for most people who watch sports. They enjoy watching golf. It takes their mind off of work or something like that. They got to go to work tomorrow. Most of the golf's on Saturday and Sundays, so they got to go to work on Monday. And I don't want to think about work. I don't want to hear, how people are going on strike. Or you notice they probably don't put any news updates in the middle of a sportscast. Probably for
There's
a
a reason for
yeah.
that, right? Yeah.
And I think the same thing when you're broadcasting. Just stay away from all that stuff, And anybody brings up some sort of a comment that will lead you that way, direct it the other way.
Just steer.
Deflect
Steer
it.
clear. Deflect.
Totally deflect it.
Got it.
It gets you no place.
Okay, so what is or are one or more of your most memorable, most favorite calls?
My favorite call ever, I did Quincy Blue Devil basketball for 17 years here. And when the Blue Devils won the state title in '81, there was a play where Dennis Douglas, this was for third place, I think it was. But he was 3/4 down court with about 2 seconds to go in the game. They were down by a point. Throws the ball all the way down under the basket, but he threw it too far. It was going to go out of bounds on the baseline. And his brother, Bruce Douglas, who was extremely talented, played for University of Illinois, jumps out of bounds, literally was parallel to the floor, caught the ball 4 or 5 feet off and still in bounds because he hadn't touched out of bounds yet, threw it back in.
His body is flying through the air?
His body is flying out of bounds through the air because his brother overthrew the pass.
Okay.
And he's like 4 or 5 feet off the court, basically, and still had not touched out of bounds, so he's still in bounds technically. Gets the ball, throws it back into the court, and Tim Huseman catches the ball at the foul line and puts it up, goes around the rim, and drops in. Wow. It was one of my best calls ever. And
what did you say?
Well, I can't recreate it, to be honest with you. I tried to do it here visually to show you, but it was like Bruce throws, I think it was Dennis, heaves the ball inbounds, and Bruce, it's going to go out of bounds, and Bruce dives, catches the ball, one-handed, throws it back into Tim Huseman, throws it up, and it rolls around the rim, and it goes in. And that's how it went.
Perfect.
So you couldn't think about it. You don't have time to think about it. You have to see it and just describe what's happening at the time.
Say it.
And it was one of the most historic plays of Quincy High Blue Devil basketball. And those kind of plays you got to put on the top of your list if you get the chance to call it, which I did. And I just stood back and I just said, what just happened here? What just happened in front of us? Even the whole crowd was just delirious.
Did anyone get it on video?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
it's on
nice.
video. You can see it. Yeah.
I'll have to find it.
Yeah. It's a very, very, it's probably the greatest basketball play I have ever witnessed. NBA, college, high school.
So did he knock into the wall? What happened when he kept
No,
flying through the air?
he just jumped off the court on the baseline under the basket, basically, to the right of the basket.
So then he landed.
He
on the
landed.
oh, okay.
He landed on the floor after,
okay.
but he got rid of the ball
got the
before
ball.
he landed.
Yeah.
So that kept him in bounds. And then Tim caught the ball at the foul line and put the shot in, and it didn't go straight in either. It kind of went
Wow.
like I said, never going to get in, and it went in. And they wound up winning that game by a point. Time ran out. It was only 2 seconds left in the game, and they took all 2 seconds plus. As long as he got that shot off, and the clock didn't start until Bruce touched the ball. So there's 1,001, 1,002, and it went in. So that's probably the greatest call I can recall.
Who's your idol?
Oh goodness, I'd have to say Jack Buck. Had the pleasure of meeting him several times, and what a delightful man that guy was. And he was so eloquent in how he broadcast the game. I know a lot of people love Vin Scully, and Jack's right up there with Vin Scully. Vin was a very descriptive person, and eloquent use of the English language was incredible. And I like Vin Scully too, but I think Jack Buck was a little more like me. A little more like, Vinny was up here. Dodger fans were here. Not that he didn't do it on purpose, but that's where he was. Jack Buck was here, and the fans were here. I think they just kind of adopted Jack, and he did a great job. He had a great voice, went on to do a lot of network stuff, and in the Hall of Fame as well. And the day he died was a tough day for a lot of people. But if you want to learn how to do play-by-play, listen to Jack Buck. They won't steer you wrong at that. He was very descriptive when he needed to be. He was very inclusive as far as how he felt about things. And we just got talking about that. Yeah. But it wasn't political stuff. It was, if he thought a ball player wasn't doing what he should have been doing, he would say that. And a lot of people won't go there.
Okay.
But he did, and he was one of the best.
We'll find that for inspiration. Anything else that I haven't asked you that you would like students of sports broadcasting to understand and know and learn?
I had a note here. I wanted to bring up something. I didn't forget what it was.
You can pull your flip chart out.
I'm okay with
That's
that.
okay.
I know what it was. Just be yourself. It's easy. It would have been easy for me to copy Jack Buck and other people to copy Harry Carey, which is very difficult to do. But, they all try to sing in the seventh inning like him, but other than that. When you're doing play-by-play, pick up while you're listening to these other announcers, little tidbits of things that they do. You can use that kind of stuff. But learn from how they're doing it, how they describe that play. My recommendation, if you're starting out, would be watch the game on TV and tape yourself doing the game. Turn the volume down. You're doing that game, not the guy you're listening to. Record that too. Record yourself, record the TV, and then go back to the start, and then play theirs and see how close it is to yours. And if you do it enough and you do it often enough, you'll find yourself saying things the same way, or not same way, but at least talking about the same things that they're talking about.
In your own way.
In your own way. In your own way. Like I would have said, I should have turned a double play there. And all of a sudden their announcer says, well, that was a double play ball, but they didn't turn it. Wow, I just said this, I thought the same thing, and I just said the same thing. That means you're on the same level of how to present the game. That takes time.
And it does take practice. You're not going to be perfect your first, fifth, maybe even 10th game, right? It takes repetition.
You may not be perfect after 1 year, 2 years, but you get better.
But you're going to be good.
Yeah.
You're going to be good.
And you're going to improve your craft a lot. And like I said, tape theirs, tape yours, listen to theirs, then listen to yours, and see how close you are to what in the pattern, how it's delivered, how it takes him 10 seconds to say you took 30. Okay, things like that you can critique yourself on. Always critique yourself. We were talking just a little while ago. I just taped my latest stuff I did. You always pick up things. You can be highly critical of yourself too, and I am, of how I should have said that. Why didn't I say it that way? But You can say that 100
It's live
times.
in the moment. But it was good.
Yeah.
You still did a great job,
Yeah.
but you're going to be more critical than probably your
Yeah,
audience.
that's right. That's exactly right. And the things you think are wrong, nobody knows about.
Yeah.
You do. So just improve on that. And then you'll just get better. And you'll get into that level eventually, hopefully, of Jack Buck and Harry Carey's and Ernie Harwell's and Bob Prince's and all
And then
those
Jeff
guys.
Dorsey's.
No, I don't know about
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I'm not on that level.
I'll put you on that level.
Well, I appreciate that.
Jeff, thanks for all the great advice.
Hey, no problem.
Appreciate it. And that's Learn How to Call a Game at QU.